Let's go Dolphins! This may be the most explosive Dolphins update you've heard all offseason. Just imagine, two star players, both integral to the Dolphins' identity, are now on the line. One just had the best season of his career and is demanding his value. The other, once the cornerstone of the defense, is now quietly being traded as a clearance item. And yet, no trade has been finalized. Why? What's really going on behind closed doors in Miami? Why is Chris Grier, a general manager who fans have begged to be fired, dragging his feet while the balance of the roster hangs in the balance? Are the Dolphins on the verge of a blowout trade that no one sees coming? Or is this the latest example of dysfunction at the top sabotaging a team that should be in the running for the Lombardi Trophy? We have a lot to unpack. But first, I want to ask you a question. How would you rate McDaniels? Do you think he's done a good job or has he left something to be desired? Comment below. And if you're a true Miami Dolphins fan, even with their ups and downs, enjoy them. Well, let's get to it. Let's get right into it. The Dolphins are heading into June with not one but two massive trade rumors shaking up the foundation of the team. First, there's tight end Jonnu Smith, fresh off a record-setting season for a Miami tight end in terms of receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Then there's cornerback Jaylen Ramsey, once considered untouchable, now very much on the trade block. Starting with Jonnu Smith, his situation is turning into a money soap opera. There are renewed trade talks with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, again. Initially, Adam Schefter broke the story that the Steelers were interested. Then, a few days later, he backtracked. But now, due to a season-ending injury to a third-string tight end in Pittsburgh, they're back in the mix. Seems a bit of a stretch, right? But Arthur Smith, Jonnu's former head coach and offensive coordinator, might be pulling strings behind the scenes to bring him back into his offense. Miami wants to keep Jonnu. Cameron Wolfe confirmed this on NFL Network, but it's all about the cash. Jonnu is nearing 30, and while he just had his best season, it's risky business banking on someone to improve through age 31 and 32. The smart move? Maybe restructure this year's salary, add one more year to his deal, but no way should they throw a long-term contract at him. Now, here's where it gets spicy. There's real talk of a trade with Pittsburgh. If Miami doesn't get a 5th-round pick, they could push for Darnell Washington, a 6 feet 7 inches, 270-pound monster of a tight end. He may not be a perfect scheme fit, but he's raw, freakishly athletic, and could be a massive upside project. If the Steelers won't part with Washington, then a straight-up 5th-round pick might just do it. But if Miami trades Jonnu, what then? Well, possible replacements being floated include Michael Mayer from Las Vegas, especially now that the Raiders have Brock Bowers, Noah Fant from Seattle, or, brace yourselves, Kyle Pitts. Yes, the same Kyle Pitts from Atlanta. There's even talk of packaging Jaylen Ramsey in a blockbuster to make that happen. Which brings us to the second storm brewing, the Jaylen Ramsey trade saga. ESPN dropped a report with 4 trade scenarios, and things are looking real. One idea has Ramsey heading back to the Los Angeles Rams for a 5th and 6th round pick plus some cash to cover his contract. Honestly, that's a decent return, especially if Miami just wants to clean house and stack draft assets. Another idea from ESPN's Dan Graziano, a 7th round pick. That's just offensive. If Grier even considers that, he deserves to be escorted out of the facility immediately. The best proposal on the table? A 4th round pick from Carolina. It's the only one that makes financial and roster building sense. Dolphins ESPN beat reporter Marcel Louis-Jacques even said it himself, that 4th rounder would give Miami 7 picks in the first 4 rounds of the 2026 draft. That's massive capital for either stockpiling young talent or trading for a legit difference maker. And don't even get me started on the worst proposal yet, a trade with the Chargers involving only a swap of 7th round picks. That's not just disrespectful, it's laughable. A move like that should be enough to finally push Grier out the door. At this point, trading Ramsey isn't just likely, it feels inevitable. And if they can save $10 million in cap space, they could turn around and use it to sweeten Jonnu Smith's deal or sign a veteran like Rasul Douglas, Asante Samuel Jr., or even Stephon Gilmore. But the question remains, why hasn't the trade happened yet? Is Miami holding out for better offers? Or are teams just not that interested post-June 1 when the financial calendar flips? There's still time for surprises, and the Dolphins are definitely not done shaking up the roster. But here's the cliffhanger I'll leave you with. If you could only keep one, Jonnu Smith or Jaylen Ramsey, who would it be? Let's keep it rolling. As we dig deeper into this, the reality of the Dolphins' offseason strategy starts to come into sharper focus, and it's clear that big changes are coming, whether fans are ready or not. The team seems to be at a critical fork in the road, and how they handle the trades of Jonnu Smith and Jaylen Ramsey could define not just the 2025 season, but the next few years in Miami. Let's stay with Jonnu Smith for a moment. The front office is caught in a tough spot. On one hand, you have a player who just delivered a career season, someone who finally clicked in Mike McDaniel's offense and showed that he could be a serious red zone threat. But on the other hand, Smith is pushing 30, and history hasn't been kind to aging tight ends who rely on athleticism. Giving him a multi-year extension now could backfire fast, and that's a risk Grier might not want to take. Which leads to the bigger issue. If Grier gets this wrong, it's just more fuel for the Grier out movement. And let's be real, that fire's already blazing. Now, if Miami does trade Jonnu, the tight end room suddenly looks dangerously thin. Julian Hill, Pharaoh Brown, that's not a unit that's going to scare anyone in the AFC. That's why names like Noah Fant and Michael Mayer are popping up. Fant has the explosiveness to stretch the field, similar to what Jonnu brings, and Mayer, if available, would bring physicality and solid blocking skills to the position. But let's not forget Kyle Pitts. That's the moonshot. A Ramsey for Pitts swap would be a headline-making move, a true franchise swing. Pitts hasn't lived up to his top 5 draft hype in Atlanta, but in a McDaniel-led offense with Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle drawing coverage, that could be the breakout moment he's been waiting for. And speaking of Ramsey, it's still stunning to even be talking about this. Just a year ago, his arrival in Miami felt like the finishing touch on a Super Bowl contender. Now, we're discussing trade packages involving 5th-round picks and contract dumps. It's a harsh reminder that in the NFL, reputations and legacies can shift in a heartbeat. Ramsey still has gas in the tank, but his contract and recent injuries have zapped his value. That's why the 4th-round pick from Carolina feels like a gift, something the Dolphins should absolutely jump on. It's the best offer on the table and gives Miami both cap space and flexibility. With 7 picks in the first 4 rounds of 2026, the Dolphins could reload in a serious way or use that capital to target elite talent next offseason. And let's not ignore the financial element here. Freeing up $10 million in cap space could mean everything in a season where margins will be razor thin. But here's the problem. We're still in this waiting game. And the longer it drags out, the more it starts to look like Grier is gambling for a miracle package that may never come. That's a dangerous game. Every day that Ramsey's still on the roster is a day that $10 million in potential cap relief is just sitting idle. And fans, they're getting restless. Some want Ramsey gone yesterday, while others believe shipping him out for a mid-round pick is lunacy. And let's not pretend the locker room isn't watching all of this. Ramsey is still a respected voice, and Jonnu's emergence last year didn't go unnoticed by his teammates. The way these situations are handled could impact chemistry and confidence heading into training camp. Will McDaniel and the front office prioritize continuity, or will they opt for cold, hard asset management? Then there's the wild card. What if Grier stuns everyone and flips Ramsey and Jonnu in a blockbuster deal that brings back someone like Pitts or another young offensive weapon? That would be the type of bold, aggressive move that this franchise has rarely made in a smart way, and the kind of move that could finally shut up critics, or ignite an even bigger firestorm if it goes sideways. So we circle back to the big question. What's next? Should the Dolphins be all in on keeping their current core intact, or is it time to break some eggs and start building for the future? Are we confident that this front office, with Chris Grier still at the helm, can make the right calls at this critical juncture? Let's push this even further, because what's unfolding in Miami isn't just a standard offseason shuffle. This is a pivotal moment in franchise history, a breaking point, the kind of crossroads that separates contenders from pretenders. The tension isn't just about player contracts or trade value, it's about vision, identity, and, more than anything, trust in the leadership at the top. Let's talk about something that's being whispered, but not shouted enough, the Dolphins' locker room dynamics. Jonnu Smith became a real locker room favorite. His breakout season wasn't just about stats, it was about leadership, attitude, and his chemistry with Tua. Trading him for a 5th rounder or a